Good day. This series of videos describes Niagara's Welland Canal, a fun place to watch ships up close. In this part, I cover some topics that I couldn't fit anywhere else. So we're going to have some fun, do some demos. Let's get started. Let's talk about water management. With all the uses for canal water, how does seaway management make sure that there's enough water in each section of the canal? It's not a trivial problem. Each time a lock fills, the water comes from the canal section immediately upstream, lowering its water level. When a lock is drained, the water goes into the section downstream and raises the water level in that downstream section. Water levels too low could risk a ship grounding, and water level too high could swamp dockside facilities. There are electrical power needs and the other uses of the canal water whose needs vary by time of year and time of day. The approach to control water levels includes both wise design choices and dynamic adjustments to respond to current conditions. First, the source for all the canal's water is Lake Erie. Most of the water flows into the canal via the water control structure in Port Coburn, west of Lock 8. Seaway management can remotely adjust the flow there to meet the current needs. Second, the canal is designed so that each canal section's ideal water level is also its maximum water level. So any excess water doesn't raise the water level, it just spills down into the next section downstream. Beside each lock, there's a spillway, and if there's extra water, it just spills down, no effort required. In this approach, no one has to worry about the water level getting too high. Third, ensure there's an excess of water always available. The water control structure is adjusted so that at all times, a little excess water is flowing through the canal from one canal section to the next. So when a lock is filled, and the canal section's water level is temporarily lowered, the excess water that's always flowing slowly fills the section back up to its maximum water level. Fourth, pondage areas were created as required. So in a short section of the canal, for example, the canal section from Lock 3 to Lock 4, that canal section is very short. Canal designers added a pondage area to increase the surface area of that section. As a result of the additional surface area, the amount the water level drops when Lock 3 fills is reduced. I think this is just going to be a mess, but we can try here. Okay. First, so now I want to see how deep this is. 11, 13, 12, that's 10. This is a smaller surface area. That's 52 millimeters. domed a little bit. I'm just gonna pretend it's flat on the bottom. And I get 127 millimeters. 127 millimeters. Overall, successful water management is the result of good canal design and merely requires controlling the overall water flow at Port Cobourn to ensure little excess water flows through each canal section. I mentioned some incidents during the virtual tour. We all make mistakes. Some mistakes have more impact than others, and it's important to learn from them. So here I'm going to talk about a recent ship collision. This ship-on-ship collision occurred during July 2020. The southbound German ship Alanis was carrying wind turbine components. The northbound Canadian ship Florence Spirit was carrying coal. Florence Spirit was moving 9 miles per hour. Alanis was going slowly, 3 miles per hour, which is like walking speed. There are no good excuses. It was a bright day. It was a little hot and muggy. That's a wide, straight section of the canal. The head-on collision stopped both ships cold. Both ships needed repairs and got back to work. Nobody was hurt, but someone's insurance is going up, and this probably cost a couple of careers. So why did this happen? Alanis had an English-speaking pilot on board, but was there some language difficulty at a critical moment? Or did Florence Spirit catch the right bank, causing it to veer wildly left? The Canadian Transportation Safety Board is investigating. They have the 2 black box recorders from each ship, one for technical data and one recording voices and sound, just the same as aircraft black box recorders. There's a deadline for the report to come out in spring 2022. It may come out sooner. So I want to talk about historical events of future planning. In the 70s, land was expropriated on the east side of the current canal to plan for the proposed 5th Welland Canal, which would permit a marginal increase in ship length. One proposal included Titanic lift locks, much like the Peterborough lift locks, to replace the flight locks and their miter gates. Some have suggested enlarging the canal system to permit ocean-going ships. Right now, if you look at the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal, they permit much, much larger ships than can come up into the seaway and into Welland Canal. But widening and deepening the seaway in the Welland Canal also implies widening and deepening the harbors. Because right now the harbors can handle ships that are 27 feet deep. And ocean monster ships just get bigger and bigger every year. There's no way to keep up and keep expanding the canal every time they have a new standard for ocean ships. Right now, the shallow west end of Lake Erie would block ships that are a deeper draft than the current lakers, so there's very limited value in trying to expand the canal system to accommodate ocean-going vessels. Ship traffic slowly declined starting in the mid-1970s, and the perceived need has receded. Around 1980, someone had a bright idea intended to reduce the time it took for ships to enter locks and so reduce end-to-end transit time. The idea was to attach a tug at the front and the back of a ship. They called these little tugs shunters. In an experimental trial, the shunters caused a huge wake that damaged the canal shoreline, and the idea was discarded. Global transport has brought ecological catastrophe to the Great Lakes. Here are some examples. Early canals introduced the sea lamprey into Lake Ontario, and the current fourth Welland Canal spread sea lampreys from Lake Ontario into Lake Erie. Now, lampreys are an ancient and fascinating fish,
because they attach and drink the blood of our native fish species here. They use their suction cup mouth to attach onto the side of the fish. They're able to create a suction force about 7 times greater than your average household vacuum cleaner. And then they can also rasp into the side of the fish with the teeth that line that suction cup mouth. They'll stay attached to the prey fish as long as that prey fish is healthy.
But during 1940 to 1960, the sea lamprey expanded across all of the upper lakes and destroyed the fishing industry in the upper Great Lakes. Another example, in the 1980s, ballast water from a ship brought us zebra mussels and quagga mussels, which have colonized every hard surface in the lakes. Someone estimated that there are 4 quadrillion quagga mussels in the Great Lakes. We all like success stories, but there's an economic impact. People have to keep clearing mussels from underwater structures like water intakes. In addition, these invasive mussels are voracious filter feeders, and their consumption of algae has impacted the native food web. So let's talk about the actual future, today's future. First item, the Ontario government is firming up its plan to create a second Garden City Skyway just north of the existing one, so that 2 run side by side. They originally looked at lots of alternatives, including building a tunnel. So this is a well-considered plan. Next, the current Welland Canal infrastructure includes 90-year-old locks and 90-year-old bridges. Locks 1, 2, and 3, and Lock 7 are 90-year-old single points of failure. Steel and concrete structures don't last forever. They can patch them up, but they degrade over time, and it's time that they replaced these ancient relics. Over the last decade, there's been talk of enhancing the Niagara irrigation water supply. One discussion was to provide farms east of the city of Welland with canal water, so that's the lower Niagara Peninsula east of the canal. It sounds like a good idea. Good luck, guys. We're well on our way to the next ecological catastrophe. There are 4 species of invasive fish that are called Asian carp in the Mississippi watershed, where they have destroyed the native food web. South of Chicago, there's a barge canal that connects the watershed of the Mississippi to the watershed of Lake Michigan. They have a carp repellent electric barrier in the barge canal south of Chicago, but it is not 100% effective because individual fish have gotten through. If that barge canal is left in place, then sooner or later, all 4 carp species will establish a breeding population in the Great Lakes. It's only a matter of time. Then we'll just have Asian carp and lampreys and quagga mussels to fish for. Current global transportation infrastructure depends 100% on fossil fuels. At some point, New York will sink beneath the waves, and then we'll all get serious about global warming. Will diesel-powered shipping be replaced, or at least augmented, with wind power? This would require hordes of modern sailing transport. What will happen to rail and trucks, which are also 100% diesel reliant? There are big changes in our future. I have some suggestions if you want to learn more. I'm going to go through the paper suggestions first. If you come to visit the area, visitors need maps. Paper maps are a cheap, small backup to GPS and Google Maps. And you can write free-form notes on them. Electronics are great, but paper maps give me the whole picture. Published annually, the book Know Your Ships is a field guide for commercial ships in the Great Lakes. The ships don't change a lot year over year. There are lots of tidbits, fleet smokestacks, and a list of marine museums. It's fun for adults and for kids. The nautical chart, named Chart CHS 2042, is the nautical chart for the Welland Canal and its approaches. If you like maps, you'll like this map. The legend is sold separately. There's an online version as well. If you get the nautical chart, you might think about getting the sailing directions as well. It's really text annotations for the nautical chart. There's a PDF version as well as a paper version, and there's an English version as well as a French version. It's a little dry and a little out of date. Don't overlook the local library. Each library is different. The St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation, that I've been calling Seaway Management, has a decent website. Among other things, it has what they call a Seaway Handbook, which are procedures for mariners using the canal. It has some educational publications, including the ABCs of the Seaway, Children's Introduction. They have a bridge up-down real-time status. Marinetraffic.com is a website that displays real-time ship data, locations and speeds. There are free features the website has. You can use it without a logon ID. There are other similar websites. A couple more websites. One is called boatnerd.com. It's really about Great Lakes shipping. And there's another one, marineinsight.com. Sort of educational about global shipping. There are some live webcams. I'll put a list up here. They're a little spotty to use because you never know when the ship is going to be there. There are some other YouTube links. I'm just going to throw them on the screen here. That's all I've got. Comments are welcome. Check out the other videos. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you by the canal.